evening show live.
Tonight's special guest, Larry Gatlin.
And now, our host, Michael Gorey.
Joining me tonight, my very special guest from his home in Nashville, Tennessee, a man who really is responsible for some of the greatest hit songs in country music, including Broken Lady, All the Gold in California, and my personal favorite, Houston Means That You're One Day Closer to Me. Opry member for 40 plus years, Larry Gatlin. Great to have you on the program, sir.
Thanks, Michael. Which way do I go? How's that?
There you go. There you are.
Well, it looks like our Christmas tree's growing out of my head, or the lamp. I guess this is making allowances
There you go.
For COVID.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being on the program. I want to start off, was it 1955 when you and your brother Steve and Rudy began singing gospel music?
Yeah, it was. I was about 6 years old, so 54, 55. We lived in a little West Texas oil town, Abilene, Texas, and we had a wonderful venue there at that time, the Fair Park Auditorium. It was a big park, the zoo right there in Abilene. It was called Fair Park. So the auditorium, the Blackwood Brothers, old gospel quartet, that was Elvis's favorite group from Memphis, and the Statesmen, Brother Hovey Lister and the Statesmen Quartet. So we were raised in the church singing those songs, and we won a little talent show in 55 or 56 there in Abilene, singing "I Woke Up This Morning Feeling Fine," old Blackwood.
Yeah, yeah.
And the brothers could barely kind of ooh-ah around, but I could sing the words a little bit. So after we won that, our mother took us to, and Dad took us to a concert at Fair Park Auditorium with the Blackwood Brothers and Statesmen. And our aunt, my Aunt Nell, her sister, went up to James Blackwood at the intermission. I'm still trying to figure out which way I go.
I think if you go over to your left.
My other left.
Way. There you go. All right. There you go.
All right, and I'm supposed to look right there. Anyway, right there. She went up to James Blackwood. She said, "I have 3 nephews who can out-sing all of y'all." Well, James Blackwood said, "Well, bring them up here." So they brought us up there, and the microphone wouldn't go low enough on the stand for Rudy to even reach it. He was only 2 or 3 years old, literally. So we had a Dr. Pepper plant right behind our house where they made Dr. Peppers. And somewhere backstage, there was an old Dr. Pepper, one of those old wooden crates, you put them in. So Jake Hess of the Statesman put that down in front of that mic. Rudy stood on it, and we just we killed them. Don't ever follow kids or dogs. So that kind of started it. Those guys in that group were our heroes, and we'd show up at other places that put us on the show, and I miss them. They were our first influences. So that's a long story, but what the heck, it was about me.
Yeah. Well, and tell me the story about the World's Fair. What happened at the World's Fair? How did that happen?
Well, our mother never was shy about, that. She got that from her sister, I guess, who said, "I've got nephews can out sing." We traveled all over the country in the summers, excuse me, when we were out of school. We lived in Odessa, Texas. At that, we'd moved from Abilene, Odessa by then. And we'd just get in that old Rambler station wagon and hook a trailer on behind it and put a little speaker, a little PA set and some clothes and some records. That summer we went to California from Odessa, and then all the way to the World's Fair in New York. And Dr. Billy Graham had a pavilion there in '64 at the World's Fair. And every time I go by there, that big globe, out there on the way to LaGuardia or Kennedy, I guess, in New York. And my mother just went up to somebody. We weren't booked on the show. They didn't know we were coming. She said, "My kids can out-sing all y'all." That was her opening line. And we love Jesus and gospel music. We need to be on the show. So somebody put us out there. And they didn't even have a piano. They had a big old B3 organ.
Yeah.
So Mama didn't play much organ, but she liked piano, so she did it anyway. And they loved us, and that's just how it was. She was always a champion for her kids, and a champion for Christ and for the Word. And we were raised doing that. And being on that stage is not even second nature to me. It's first nature. It's
Yeah.
throw me in that briar patch. I can't do much, but I can do that.
Yeah. That's
A little bit.
incredible. And the support that your parents gave you and your brothers early on. When did you guys transition from doing gospel more into the country music? And how did that all come about? Was that an easy transition?
Well, it's, I like to say I failed my way all the way to the top, and failed my way to the top and then all the way back down to the middle. And as Roger Miller said, it's lonely at the middle. Well,
Yeah.
it's not. I was in law school. We sang in churches and, every summer, like I say, traveling. And I went to the University of Houston in 1966 on a football scholarship. How do you get in the business? How do you get in show business? Where do you go? Who do you call? I knew that I wanted to, and at that time, like I say, it was gospel music and we wanted to do that, but I had to have a way to make a living. So I went to University of Houston. I had entered law school, was there about 5 or 6 months. And I went over to talk to a lady named Ruby Campbell. She was a gospel singer, had a group, Campbell family. And James Goss and I had written a little gospel song. And they had recorded it, the Goss brothers, they produced it on my late great friend Roger McDuff, a great singer from Texas. And I wanted to hear the song. So I went over there and just offhandedly, Ruby Campbell said, "Hey, Larry, Roger Wiles, the baritone singer for the Imperials, said he's left the group and they need somebody." So I called Armin Morales, who was the bass singer. The Imperials, that group that Jake Hess had started.
Yes.
They were in Vegas working with Elvis at the Hilton. So I called them. They said, "No, we don't need anybody right now." The piano player, Joe Mosqueo, is singing the other part from the guy who left. And all we're doing is, "Ooh, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. Don't be cruel."
Yeah.
So I went to work that night, Steak and Ale on Gulf Freeway, old steakhouse. And I got a call right in the middle of the 5 or 6 hour, my shift at the steakhouse. And they said, "When can you come out here?" I said, "Tomorrow."
Wow.
So they said, and it was really a nice moment. I'll always be thankful to Norman Brinker, who owned the Steak and Ales. My waiters, my fellow waiters. Janice was a school teacher in Pasadena, Texas. We just been married a year and a half. We didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, much less plane fare to Vegas. So my fellow waiters took up a collection that night after we finished work when I told them what was going on, and went to Vegas the next day. They really didn't need me for the Elvis show. What they needed me for was the Jimmy Dean show, because in Vegas, the weekend, you open Thursday night and you close Wednesday night. That's what the week cycle is. So they closed with Elvis at the Hilton across the street from the Landmark, and they opened with Jimmy Dean the next night. And that's what they really needed, because they did a lot of singing and specials with him. So they taught me that show. I thought I had the job. They had somebody else they really wanted, a guy named Greg Gordon. He flunked his draft physical, didn't have to go to Vietnam, so they hired me. Well, that's all I'd ever want to be, was a gospel singer. But I failed at that. However, God in his infinite wisdom had a different plan for me. I won't say it was better or bigger. It was different. I met Dottie West while I was there, and all she talked about was songs and songwriters, and Chris Christopherson, Mickey Newberry, Willie Nelson, Roger Miller, and people. So one night, Glenn Campbell had given her a guitar, a new Ovation guitar, and she was getting her hair done late. The guy was in there fixing these long ringlets and stuff, and I came, knocked on the door, and asked her if I could borrow her guitar. I had a little idea. So I started, and it was awful. Like the boy who robbed the cookie jar, I ran away and hid. I don't know why, I just did. I mean, it awful. My God, awful. But she said, "You're just making that up, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Well, you look enough like Mickey Newberry. You got to be able to write a song." Uh,
Wow.
so she said, "Send me some songs, and if you write some, and I'll try to help you." So I went back home to Houston at that time. Janice and I had moved out of our apartment and were living with some friends of ours to save money because I thought I was going to Nashville with the Imperials.
Yeah.
So I wrote 8 songs. We recorded them on Janice's little Wallensack reel-to-reel tape recorder that she used in her second grade classroom.
Huh.
Sat in her classroom, and I recorded these 8 songs. I sent them to Dottie, and she sent us a plane ticket. And moved to Nashville. She started recording my songs, telling me about people. That was in 71, and in 1975 won a Grammy for Song of the Year for Broken Lady. So, like I say, out of my failures, or out of the failures in my life, what seemed to be failures were actually, God's plan for moving this along. And that's the way it happened.
Yeah. That's
It.
incredible. That's incredible. And for people that are watching, uh, you just never know the direction that God's going to take you in. And but you were there, and you were willing to go along for the ride.
That's what it's been.
Yeah.
He's the driver. I'm just the passenger, or I'm the passenger, and he's the great traffic mover around her. Uh, uh, you know, so, or as Baruch Spinoza called him, the great geometer.
Wow.
So that's kind of what happened in my life, and it continues to happen.
Yeah.
I was in love from the time I was 14 on with a whole lot of different pretty girls there in Odessa. And I'd pray every time I'd meet a new one, I'd pray that that'd be the one that, and like my friend Larry Bastian said for Garth Brooks' song, "Thank God for Unanswered Prayers."
Yeah.
The one I got was my soulmate and mother of our kids and lover and wife and best friend and confidant for 51 years.
Wow.
Janice. So, yeah, when I show people a picture of her, I said, "You really believe this is 74-year-old grandma?" They go, "No, you're lying. You married,
Yeah.
30-year-old. So, thank God for unanswered prayers. Way to go, Larry Bastian. You too, Garth.
Yeah. That's awesome. Speaking of songwriters, you're ranked number 4 of songwriters on Billboard's list of most self-penned top 40 hits. Member of the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. Throughout your career, you've written for, Elvis Presley, Barbara Streisand, Johnny Cash. The list goes on. Donnie West, Chris Christopherson. Um, and your songs are so authentic. Um, are you writing from a place of personal experience in those?
Yes, they're not all my personal experiences, but they're somebody's.
Yeah.
See, I have I hate to use the word limited, but from the time we're born to the time we go to the other side of the Jordan, we have experiences in our own lives. And yes, I have an internal dialogue. But it doesn't stay internal very long. It goes external pretty quickly because I talk to myself all the time in rhymes, in meter. My internal dialogue until it becomes external dialogue is in iambic pentameter.
Yeah.
I wrote a song. I read a little Shakespeare every day. Maybe a little Faulkner and some Ernest Hemingway. That way I keep the best of all the best writers had to say. So I read a little Shakespeare every day. And my
Wow.
mind goes like that. So the best way, or the way I write songs, I listen. I listen to myself first because that's where I am. But I listen to cab drivers, and to short order cooks and waitresses and preachers. and philosophers, and just I listen to my wife, I listen to my kids, my grandkids. I think there are two kinds of people in the world. There are sponges and there are rocks. Well, I'm a sponge.
Yeah.
Soak it in, and then I squeeze my own heart and soul. And sometimes good stuff comes out, and sometimes it's drivel, absolute drivel. And I'm going to get myself a drink of water.
No, that's great. Um, one of my favorite songs that you and your brothers have recorded from a gospel standpoint is the song "The Prodigal Son."
Uh-huh.
Uh, there's a line in that in the second verse talking about being in Vegas, almost dead. Was that from personal experience?
Oh, absolutely. Mine and a lot of other people's. I wouldn't take for those experiences. I'm a recovering drunk, alcoholic, and drug addict. We're all addicted to something.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be that was where I was. And on numerous occasions, one in particular, one night in Reno and several times in Vegas, that I overamped. My motto has been moderation stinks, more of everything immediately. And absolutely perfect is just not quite good enough for me. I think I'll go write that right now. I've never said that.
It's a
I
song.
have never said that. Absolutely perfect's barely good enough for me. Honey, can I have a pencil? Oh, trust me, I won't forget that.
Absolutely perfect.
It's barely good enough for me.
Wow.
God.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, before you came on, we were getting ready to go live here or to record. I mentioned Bill Gaither having been on the program. He's a friend of yours. And how did you guys?
I've never heard of it.
How did you guys become friends? How did that happen?
Well, when I was 13 or around there, I attended the Stamps Music School. We lived in Odessa at that time. Stamps Music School was at a church there on Jefferson Avenue in Oak Cliff, beautiful Bethel Temple. So, and you could go to a 2-week singing school or music school where they taught you to read shape notes. I just noticed these bags. I need to put some of that. Anyway, where was I? Oh, so learning to read shape notes. Google it, people. You won't know what it is. Go Google shape notes. And to conduct in 4/4 time and 1, 2, 3, and sing the rudiments. Well, at the end of that singing school every year, Frank Stamps, they had what they call the all-night singing at the old Sportatorium. It's still there under the big interchange right there below the big building in Dallas that has the big world globe on top of it. It was called the Sportatorium. It's actually where they had wrestling matches and boxing matches.
Huh.
And we did that, excuse me. And there was a group that and I was 13. So Steve and Rudy and LaDonna were 10, 9, on down every couple of years, Mom would have another baby. So I heard the Gaither Trio for the first time. So that's got to be 1961.
Okay.
And I loved them. I loved the songs and met Bill and Gloria just very briefly. And many years later, I went to the, when Janice and I had moved to Nashville, went to the concert at the auditorium downtown, the Nashville Municipal, whatever they call it, for that all-night singing at the Blackwoods and Statesman Court that they always put on at the end of the gospel music, festival they have here every year. So met Bill, and he'd heard a little bit of my music. I'd been in town a couple of years, and he'd heard Sweet Becky Walker or something. And we kind of visited, and then just over the years, we'd kind of bump into each other accidentally. Accidents, God's way of remaining anonymous. Yeah. And we just hit it off. he was an English teacher. He and Gloria were English teachers. I was an English major. We loved the words. Excuse me. We had the same heroes. And it has just flowered and grown into a marvelous friendship that I cherish. We've written several songs together. He and Gloria have invited me, to use they have a little cabin out there in a cornfield up near Alexandria, and haven't been up there in a while. Bill and I have been talking about during all this pandemic, it's hard to know what to do, but I'm going to drive up there. We play off of each other so well. I'm kind of a Boswell to his Johnson, to Samuel Johnson. I mean, I don't know, people made a literary allusion, but I'll listen to him, and then I'll just write down the little ideas. And he does the same thing with me. When we say something that kind of stays in the other one's heart or mind or whatever, I have a whole folder up there of Gaither Gatlin ideas.
Wow.
I've been trying to talk him into. See, here's the deal about Bill. Bill, I hope I can say this. If you really want to get along with Bill, you have to kind of treat him like a mushroom. Yeah. Just keep him in the dark and keep putting manure on him and hope he'll grow. So that's how you work with Bill Gaither. No, he's a brilliant man. He and Gloria both wordsmiths. But we've done several. The brothers and I have recorded some. The Gaither Vocal Band, of course, have recorded a lot of them. And I want to do it soon because he's really old. He ain't going to be. I mean, chances are.
Well,
I want to do Gaither sings Gatlin, sings Gaither, sings Gatlin, and do the song that he and I have recorded with the Gaither Vocal Band and the Gatlin brothers.
Yeah.
So I'm putting the heat on him again. Here's the thing. The next time you see him, tell him, say, hey, Larry told me about that great idea you had.
I'll do what I
Hope
can.
he'll grow.
Yeah.
Hope he'll grow.
Well, that you're talking about the songs you guys have written together. Henry Slaughter gave you guys an idea for a song, and I just love it. Can you give me just a line of that?
He told Bill one time. Bill was complimenting him, on something, and about what a wonderful influence he'd been on all of us. And he said something. He said, Bill, I just wrote a few songs and played in the band, So Bill told me that, and we just sat down immediately and started doing it. Henry was a great influence on me. He was from Wichita Falls, not far from where my mother and father got married, in a little town called Alny, Texas. So I've known him when he was with the Stamps Ozark. I think, of course, with the Weatherford Quartet, one of my all-time favorite vocal groups. So when Bill and I get together, when I'm the calmest person in the room, I know that I'm with Bill because I'm usually not really that calm.
Yeah.
I'll sit down and get my Palomino Blackwing pencil and a piece of white paper and get it all sharpened up, and he'll just kind of walk around. He just kind of wanders around his house, and he'll throw out, clean. I feel clean. Larry, I want to write something clean. I said, okay. And we started it. I called him one time, and he said, well, how are you doing? I said, well, I'm greatly blessed, highly favored, and perfect but forgiven child of God. He said, well, we've got to write that. I said, why do you think I told you? So we wrote it.
Yeah.
Did a little demo of it there in his apartment. And I sent it to him. And about 2 weeks later, he called me and said, I don't like it. I said, what's wrong with it? He said, I don't like the melody. I said, it's a beautiful melody. I wrote it while you were in the bathroom. He said, I want it to sound like All the Gold in California. I said, pal,
Wow.
we don't have to ask anybody's permission. So all the gold in California, greatly blessed and highly favored
I
And
love it.
somewhere it won album of the year or something, I think, for them or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Sorry,
along,
little early
no,
morning phlegm there, you know.
well, so Larry, throughout your career, your faith is you've stayed attached to your faith, to allowing the Lord to guide you. What's on the horizon for Larry, Steve, and Rudy, the Gatlin brothers?
Today,
Yeah.
this horrible pandemic we've been living through. Excuse me. Uh, you know, sometimes when you kind of sit around, it only feeds and nurtures more sitting around.
Hmm.
You know, that inertia, when you just get stopped, it's hard to get moving again. So I've been kind of beating myself up a little bit because I do that. You know, sometimes I'm my best friend and sometimes I'm my worst enemy. But I've kind of played a whole lot of golf.
Hmm.
And I realized a few days ago, Larry, it's okay. It's all right. You don't have to write a song every day. And I've never had writer's block. You know, some people say, well, I just sit down. Writer's block for me means call the pro shop, get a tee time, and go play golf
Mm.
or do something else. I am not going to slave and torture myself over that. I've never been afraid of a blank piece of paper. You know, I
Yeah.
never. But during this time, the brothers and I haven't done a whole lot. I've written us a couple of songs that we think are really good. Gordon Mote, uh, you know, great friend of
Yeah.
Bill, he's producing these two songs, and he is by far, I say by far, Chip Young produced some of our music. He was a great guitar player. So, but Gordon is on that level. Fred Foster, our first producer at Monument, Fred wasn't a musician. He couldn't go to the piano and hit C chord. He had an incredible ear.
Mm.
He had a sense of what would work, and didn't tell the musicians. But having Gordon in there, who's the consummate virtuoso keyboard, and I mean, he hears things, you know,
Yeah.
that the rest of us don't hear. So we've been in the studio and have done a couple of things. The thing is, we don't really know what to do with them. I'm not really hip to the social media thing very much, but I've talked to people who are, and they say, Larry, you really don't need country radio anymore.
Mm.
You can go around that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do the art first. First things first. Take care of what you do. Excuse me. And then my granddaughter was sorry. Is one more second here.
No, sure.
I think that's an old Marlboro trying to come up that I smoked about 50 years. So anyway, we've recorded it. We're going to get back in the studio and there you go. And kind of kibitz around with it a little bit and put some, and then find out what to do with it. I don't have to know what to do with it right now. That's not my job. I've done my little deal. We get letters all the time. What are you telling me? My wife is telling me we have to go to the row class in 8 minutes.
Okay.
You
Okay.
go in there and you pull this. Oh, it's terrible. But I've had to ask myself, what is your intent? What is it that you're trying to accomplish here? And it has been revealed to me between choking that once again, as the Lord said, and we are supposed to be made in his image and to try to emulate I must be about my Father's business.
Yeah.
And did Bill and I write that? I have not been about my Father's business. I have only been about. No, I think I wrote that. Maybe Bill wrote part. I don't know. I'm not going to give him credit for it. I'm going to say I wrote it. That's what I've learned and realized anew. We get letters from literally all over the world, from the Faroe Islands, from places that I haven't been. I've been to the Faroe Islands. Let me tell you a real quick story. This will be my closer, okay?
Okay.
And it sounds like it's about me, but it's not. Because the book says, God forbid that I glory except in the cross of Jesus Christ. So this is a God thing, but
Okay.
it happened to us. My wife, Janice, went to a funeral of one of her in-laws in Oklahoma. And somebody came up to her and said, Janice, there's a gentleman over there and he's too shy, but he wanted to talk to you about something. She said, okay. My wife's very friendly. She went over and visited with the man. He said, I want to tell you a story. He said, I used to work for the Caterpillar, John Deere. One of them, John Deere. And said, they sent me to Bulgaria. And this was back before the Iron Curtain fell, back before in the 70s. Said, I went over there to help them with tractors and show them how to use this equipment. Said, I was sitting on a park bench reading a book. And said, a man came up to me and said, sir, kind of quietly said, where did you get that book? He said, well, I'm an American. I brought it with me. He said, when you're finished with it, may I borrow it? They won't let us have books here from the outside world. They don't want us reading. And the man said, well, if you haven't read, said, where did you learn you speak English so beautifully? And the man said, he said, I learned to read English listening to Gatlin Brothers records on Radio Free Europe.
Wow.
To God be the glory, great things he hath done. That song was written by William H. Doane, my long lost fourth or fifth or whatever cousin. My mother was Billie Christine Doane.
Wow.
And we're all related. But anyway, when we get those kind of letters, and I get a little, not down in the dumps, but we all question what we're here for. Come on.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? I remember the John Deere tractor guy in Sofia, Bulgaria, that this man learned how to read or the English language, listening to the music that God gave me and my brothers to sing. So if it's all over tomorrow, as they say in Vegas, I'm playing on the house money. I've been greatly blessed. So I'm trying to keep Larry out of the way.
Yeah.
And the man who loves his job's always on vacation. But if that job also is a calling that you honor, then again, I'm greatly blessed.
Thank you to my very special guest, Larry Gatlin, of Larry, Steve, Rudy, the Gatlin brothers. Join me next Wednesday night for another exciting episode with my very special guests, stars of HGTV's Fixer to Fabulous, Dave and Jenny Mars. God bless you.
Bless you. Bye-bye.
My thanks to Larry Gatlin, Kay Wagner Burney, and Absolute Publicity. Evening Show Live is a media ministry of Bethel Baptist Church in Bentonville, Arkansas. To learn more about Bethel, visit our website, bethelbentonville.com. To watch past episodes of Evening Show Live, visit eveningshowlive.com.